Hello there, people of the internet. This monstrosity is an AK47, or more technically an AKM, because if I don't tell you guys that, then somebody's going to go complain in the comments down below that I'm not holding a Type 1. But for all intents and purposes, for the sake of this video, we're just going to call it the AK47, because that's what the world calls it. So, technically AKM, this is an AK47. I have heard, through my time of doing just gun stuff in general, a lot of people say that this is absolute garbage, it's communist trash, you shouldn't mess with it, it's inaccurate, it's unreliable, etc., etc. And then, on the opposite end of the spectrum, I have heard a lot of people say that these things are basically indestructible and unstoppable, unkillable, and it normally revolves around the people who are like diehard AK fans or diehard AR fans. Well, the AK is a mechanical device. And just like every other mechanical device, it has its shortcomings and things that you have to pay attention to. This doesn't really apply with proper mil-spec AKs, but I'm going to go over some of the shortcomings that you're definitely going to come across with your cheaper level AKs. Like, say, most of your American-made AKs and I know Century Arms makes a bunch of AKs that has these problems. This particular one is an inter-ordnance AK. I've made a bunch of videos about this over the years of me having many problems with this particular AK, and way back in the day I ended up completely rebuilding it with the Romanian parts kit, and just long story short, I have messed around with the AK a whole lot, and this right here is not my first AK build. So, and it definitely won't be my last. So I have definitely been around the block whenever it comes to AKs, and what to look for in terms of failure points, and what to look for in terms of what you might potentially run into. So, this particular AK probably has about 3,000 rounds on it, and the inter-ordnance AK is notably bad, even in comparison to some other AKs out there that are notably bad. The inter-ordnance AK is just not made with great steel, and many shortcuts were had on it, and it was just a mess, and inter-ordnance has since stopped their AK line. So I don't really know where to start with this. I've already gone over what to look for when buying an AK, but after you have bought the AK, these are the things to pay attention to while you're using that AK so it doesn't become a grenade and blow up in your face. So first thing you're going to want to do, all these little rivets here on the outside of the receiver, keep an eye on those. Check on them every couple hundred rounds. Just make sure that there's not any space or openings or gaps in them. Right here are the rivets that hold the optic mount. Yeah, we're just going to call this the optic mount. The side rail of the AK, which you stick your optic mount onto. Right here are the rivets that hold the side rail on. Those tend to be not that great with your cheaper AKs, but they're also not necessarily a load-bearing surface. So unless those ones are really bad, you can get away with them not being all that great. But all the ones that are directly onto your receiver, pay attention to those. Make sure that you don't see any bending, warping, anything that looks like it's getting stressed. Right here on your magazine release, you can look there. Look at the pins, make sure that all those are good. Surprisingly, on this inter-ordnance AK, these ones are pretty good. I have seen several AKs fail around this 3,000 round mark, more typically around 5,000 rounds or so. But all the pins on this particular AK look pretty gosh darn good. A couple of these were redone whenever I had done the swap with the internals from that Romanian parts kit. And this was a minute ago. I think I got a video up on what all I did to this AK. I'll have to go and rewatch that because I don't quite remember what all I did to this AK. So a couple of things to pay attention to. Number one, your bolt carrier group is probably going to get worn out, and the very end of it is probably going to start mushrooming. Once it mushrooms to the point to where it has difficulty cycling, you're going to have issues like this. This right here is the bolt carrier group stuck all the way to the back. There's nothing holding it back other than the fact that it is worn out. And that's the issue. So I just got to kind of push that forward every time I charge the handle. Now, the bottom of your bolt carrier group and bolt interface with the hammer inside the AK. Over time, if that hammer is made of a soft metal, which a lot of your cheaper AKs are, that hammer will start to deform and mushroom, and that can also start causing some hang-up issues inside of the system. That's pretty easy to swap out. I think the hammer is one of those things that I swapped out in this particular AK. But if you pull your bolt carrier back, you can feel, like when tension starts to build on that bolt carrier, you can feel whenever it's interfacing with that hammer. It's not quite all the way back, but you can feel as the tension increases as it is now pushing up against that spring-loaded hammer. And if that feels like it's too intense and you shot your AK a bunch, your hammer might potentially be getting worn out, and I would recommend looking at it, seeing if it's deformed any. Alright, number one big red flag with these things. This pin right here, that's what holds your barrel and front trunnion in together. Sort of, it gets a little bit more technical than that, but that pin right there is what you want to pay attention to, and that thing should be like press fit in with a 12-ton press, and you should not be able to move that with any amount of hand tools. You should need like a hydraulic press to be able to move that, and if you can move it in any other way without the hydraulic press, that is not good. So on top of that, these, especially in your weaker AKs, cheaper AKs, that's the word I'm looking for, in your cheaper AKs, they are made of a softer metal. The trunnions might be halfway decent. Many of them are cast, and casting over time just causes issues because there's a lot of deformations in casting. I'm not really going to get in depth on that. But the cast trunnions that people normally complain about really aren't always the problem. Normally what happens is that particular barrel pin is made of too soft of a metal, and it will start to warp, and it will start to bend, and it will get out of spec to the point to where the trunnion and the barrel aren't where they're supposed to be, and that's going to start throwing off headspace. And that is the main thing that you need to pay attention to. In the event that you got to swap that out, might be a little difficult on an AK. I'm sure a lot of people would be able to pull it off, but yeah, that's normally the part that gives people trouble. On your, say, forged trunnion AKs, you tend to not really have that particular problem, but on your cheaper cast trunnion AKs, that seems to really be where people start having issues. Now, your actual cast trunnion, I will acknowledge that those do wear out rather quickly and throw off headspace. But with all of the ones that I've messed with, you swap out that barrel pin, which is now bent and warped, with a proper inspec barrel pin, and that has fixed the issue. Just reuse the trunnion, and I haven't had any problems. So, now, unless the trunnion's out of spec, I'm going to go ahead and say that right now, unless the trunnion's out of spec. I think those are probably going to be the main points of contention with your AK. Every time you fire this thing, the receiver warps a little bit. You can really see that in slow motion. And if your rivets in this receiver aren't great, or if they are made of like a cheap metal or a soft metal, or just not up to the spec that they're supposed to be, then that could very legitimately shear off one of those rivets. Then you definitely do not want that to happen, because then you have things inside the AK receiver that are not being held where they're supposed to be held, or not being supported where they're supposed to be supported. And we definitely do not want that. So this Inner Ordnance AK, I have my hunting magazine, and I am going to do what no man should do, and I'm going to fire this thing. This has always been a super sketchy AK ever since it, you know, blew up in my face whenever it was an Inner Ordnance AK at around the 3,000 round mark. And then I sent it to Inner Ordnance, and they kept it for like a year and never touched it. And then I demanded that they send it back, so they sent it back. And then I went through and swapped out a bunch of internal stuff. And now it seems okay. Question mark? I should really go back and watch that video and see what all I did to this thing. So, I guess we're gonna go ahead and ride the lightning here. That chamber around, that chambered around. I'm pretty sure that I halfway remember getting this thing up to spec and having it be okay. I'm just gonna kind of shoot at the steel out there. This is cheapo Russian steel case stuff. Oh, I do have one other thing I'm gonna point out about the AK and points of contention with it after I fire this. By Jove, this recoil is a lot more than I remember. This AK, I got like light wood furniture on it, and it is way lighter than all of my other AKs. It's like a particle board furniture. I got it stupid cheap, but kind of fits the bill, I guess. And boy, the recoil is way more than I was expecting. And without the muzzle brake on this thing, dude, the fireball that comes out of this is super cool. All right, one thing I have seen in a bunch of your cheaper AKs, especially around the 3,000 to 5,000 round mark, the firing pins don't really have a problem, but the firing pin retaining pin will start to deform, and it will actually get like a concave cutout inside of it to the point to where the firing pin starts flying out the back of the receiver, or flying out of the back of the bolt and into the receiver under fire. And that's not good, because that means you got no firing pin. Then you put it back in, and it does it again, and you're like, what the heck is going on? I got no idea what to expect here. So pull out that actual pin and look at it and see if it's actually straight. If it is straight and your firing pin's flying out, that means that you probably have a bolt that has become out of spec, which I have also seen. Typically not with like the locking lug area. That tends to be something that stays pretty well adjusted. But the actual firing pin channel, especially if you have like a cheap bolt that you're using, it can have some issues over time. So there you guys go. These are what to look for with your AK if you want to make sure that the bloody thing is going to keep on keeping on. Military spec AKs, they don't really have these problems because everything is up to spec where it's supposed to be, to where it doesn't warp or wear out. The issue is we got a lot of AKs out there on the market that don't meet those military specifications, and that's where the problem rolls in. So thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. One of those rounds that fired out of this thing was a significantly larger fireball than the other ones were, and it sounded louder too. That's your cheapo steel case Russian stuff, I guess. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garrett. It's a shame that bolt action shotguns aren't more mainstream.